Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Inside the Walls podcast. I know you guys have missed us. It's been a week since we've been on, but we got to travel, get back to our home locations. But we have a lot of things to cover for the first 2 weeks of the National Arena League. Some shockers, I kind of thought that was going to happen. And are the Beef back? We'll get into more of that conversation as the day and episode is progressing. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, remember to follow us on all social media platforms at NAL on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Follow Inside the Walls Podcast on the same platforms at NWallsPod. And we'll get more in-depth information of your National Arena League teams. Visit nationalarenaleague.com. Before we get the episode started, I got to introduce the partners in crime. One's located in Omaha, Matt Patton, and the other one is located Country Road, West Virginia.
Take me home.
Like every time I mention West Virginia, I got to sing a song. I'm saying
it's a given. I mean, you have to.
I remember when my kids found out I was traveling. Every time we talked about it, they would start singing the song. So it's all good.
Well, gents, nothing's really happened in the last 2 weeks. We just
nothing.
There's a lot of entertaining things. I know one thing. We were up there in Wheeling, West Virginia last weekend. Well, actually, 2 weekends ago, because last weekend is week 2. Week 1, it was an enjoyable event. Awesome.
Was it?
The game was exciting. That was legit what the NAL game is. We got to...
Well, I'm talking about the 40 million times I had to jump off the air and go actually work.
Okay. No, I will say this though. Big shout out to owner Chris Duffy and Coach Resignalo just having us out there and just treating us like kings out there. Honestly, like I had a great time. I don't know about you guys, but
Duffy is great. He treated me very well. He brought both of us to Wheeling for the event. Only got one bone to pick with Duffy, is that we flew to Atlanta on the same aircraft. He got to Jacksonville 2 hours before me. He took an earlier flight, but booked me to a later flight, so I was stuck in Atlanta for about another 4 hours.
I'm pretty sure we talked about that on the drive back to the airport, but it is what it is.
Like, what the heck, Duffy? But anyways, it was a great event. Great opening weekend. Now we get into the second week, and to the fans who are tuning in, what was the best moment so far in the National Arena League? There's some dudes out there that they're very impressive. Like Colorado made a statement week 1, then Omaha comes in week 2, makes a statement themselves. Carolina makes a statement this past weekend, and Sioux City is bouncing back to their old ways as well. 2 weeks in, gents, what has stood out to you the most? Jeff?
The bounce back in Omaha. Let's talk about that very first. Lorenzo Brown is looking like Lorenzo Brown of old again. I think that is a good thing. And then also we'll talk about a former Beef player in Tybus Taylor. Boy, is he a force to be reckoned with. Wins Offensive Player of the Year this week and much deserved for him. Excited to see what he has for the rest of the season.
Matt, what stood out to you?
I think what stood out to me is, and I don't mean any slight by this, but what stood out to me was the struggles that Wheeling has had in their transition to the National Arena League. We talked a lot in the offseason about Wheeling, Columbus, and Omaha all came in as undefeated teams, and how were Columbus and Wheeling going to transition to the NAL with Columbus transitioning back to the NAL. And we saw, that week 1, that game against Colorado that, some things didn't go the way that Wheeling expected. And then obviously this last week out in Carolina, we'll get to that in a little bit, but just their struggle and how does Coach Rez get them to rebound? And I think the other thing that stood out to me is, again, how Jeff talked a little bit about the resiliency of the Omaha Beef, and I don't want to get too into that. I don't want to be accused of being biased or anything, but just the resiliency of those guys to bounce back and just kind of show that they are still the standard bearers in the league. So,
you biased? But speaking about bias, what can't be biased is the standings of the National Arena League in the American Division. If you're listening on our podcast platforms, the Carolina Cobras lead at 1-0, tied with Beaumont as well. Columbus is there at 1-0. Shreveport 0-1, and then Wheeling rounded up at the bottom on 5th place at 0-2. National Division of Omaha 2-0. Sioux City, Colorado both 1-1. Tiebreaker right there is Sioux City's 1-0 record in the division. Then Idaho at 0-1 to wrap up the National Division. If the postseason started today, yes, I know people. It's like, well, why are you talking? We're only week 2. Sioux City would travel to Omaha, and Beaumont would be traveling to Carolina. A lot of football will be played, but if you look at the standings, you see the little dotted line that tells you the postseason line for both divisions. So please, to the listeners, stop. Well, you can message us anytime you want. We'll help, but don't ask the same question. It's like, well, postseason, the postseason. Well, it's in the graphic. But pretty much love and respect. But speaking, before we get into the games, players of the week for week 2. We just mentioned, well, Jeff just mentioned Tobias Taylor from the Carolina Cobras, making some plays, especially late in the second half. And, look at that, Matt. DB.
Yeah. TDG, Trey W. Giles, 2 interceptions, 2 of the 5 turnovers that the Beef defense forced on Saturday night. So, yeah, that was really awesome.
And the kicker himself, Willie from the Carolina Cobras. I think he made all of his extra points. I think that's the reason why he got the nod. He missed one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, according to the stats, he was 5 of 6.
Yeah, he missed just one.
Extra points are big, especially in the indoor. Like, people may take those for granted, but they are big. So let's review the previous week games. In Sioux City, the Sioux City Bandits kicked off week 2 with a 45-14 victory over the Idaho Horsemen in the Tyson Event Center, aka the Chicken Coop, for Matt or Jeff, whoever gave that nickname. Is it because of the Tyson chicken? We ain't getting into chicken cock. Nope, you're gonna have chat. Nope, we ain't touching that. Let's move to the next game. Next game, it was the showdown in Greensboro. Carolina Cobras outlast the Wheeling Miners 41-26 with a separation of sorts in the second half of that game, where Tobias started making some big plays. And the game that could say was the game of the week, the Omaha Beef 33-12 victors over the Colorado Spartans after the Spartans went into Wheeling and got a big win. Gents, entertaining week 1 and week 2. And how it's set up. There are certain storylines that you can see are starting to be created. For instance, is Carolina primed for a run? Jeff.
Certainly looked like it this weekend. It's one thing they were able to pass the ball in and run the ball. I'm curious to see what this matchup looks like this weekend with Columbus, because we're still not sure what Columbus is, unfortunately. They had a game against Peach State, but what are they, against NAL competition? So curious to see how that game will go down in Columbus on Saturday. So we'll see. But, yeah, 2 good games this weekend.
Matt.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. You look at Tobias Taylor, he had 94 yards receiving with 2 touchdowns, and then also had 42 yards rushing with 2 touchdowns. I have seen firsthand what that guy can do with the football in his hands, and he is just a different guy out there. But then you also look at Vincent Espinoza. He came out in his first game, and he had 15 completions, 178 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Just their offense looks like it's running on all cylinders. You got James Sanders back. You got Jordan Barton contributing and scoring a touchdown. But their defense, man, was good too. They had 3 turnovers. Charles Reed had two interceptions in the game, and Milliken had another interception. And then the fact that their kicker is a rookie and made 5 out of his first 6 PATs in his first ever indoor game, that's impressive. So I think Carolina may be poised for a run this season. And that was a team that in the offseason we kind of all thought might be kind of good, right? But then when the coaching change happened, we weren't really sure how that was going to affect the team, and it doesn't seem like it's affected them too much at all, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. But we also got some more topics to touch on, and unfortunately, unfortunately, we have to go this way as well. Are the Beef returning to their old ways?
Ooh.
Jeff.
I mean, it sure looks like it after 2 weeks after the unfortunate upset in the preseason, and I will say that again, preseason. So it is
There
what
was
it
a
is.
preseason game.
It's a preseason game. It's not a season game. So I think, I mean, after the first 2 games, absolutely. I mean, that team has come together. They made some moves, made some trades, got some playmakers in there. Defense looks stout, and Brown looks really comfortable back there, throwing the ball and running when he needs to. So yeah, I mean, it looks like the Beef of old.
Well, I look at it this way. You watch that game against Colorado. Omaha put Colorado in consistent long yardage, making Aiken throw the ball. And that, because if you look the previous week, Aiken was running the football, not passing a lot.
Right.
This week, he was forced to make those deep passes where the Omaha's defense was capitalizing. Omaha is Omaha. And even though you have friendly banter online between other shows and podcasts, and they keep bashing the Omaha Beef, there's a reason why Omaha is where they're at.
Right.
You don't win championships in the preseason.
Mm-mm.
You just don't. You win them in the regular season. You get in the postseason. Still very early, because we saw in week 1, Omaha looked like, even though they won handily, it looked like they were not getting out there. We were sat watching the game at the players' lounge, and we're like, Omaha doesn't seem like they have it. This game against Colorado, it was clearly. It looked like they were fully engaged. Maybe it's because of a little home cooking, because you always play better when you're at home in front of your home fans. And are they poised? Is Omaha back to their old ways? They're 2-0 at top of division, 1-0 in division play. Hey, what is it? What you don't underestimate a heart of a champion, especially a back-to-back champion? I don't know. We'll ask the question to Matt, because we've been pretty, respectful about it. Matt, week 1, week 2, what was the big difference between the Beef?
I mean, I think you just saw from week 1 to week 2, I think you just saw the difference in the amount of practices and the amount of time that the guys got to spend together. If you look at it, right, their defense was probably one of their biggest question marks coming into the season after they announced that they had signed Lorenzo Brown, if I'm being honest. And you look at their defense, they've given up 30 total points in the 2 games, right? 30 total points. So, I mean, they gave up 12 this week and 18 week 1. And a total in 2 indoor games of 250 total yards combined between the 2 teams that they've played, right? So when you're having that great of success, plus you force 5 turnovers in in the game this last weekend, and then you have another 3 turnovers in the first game, so that's 8 turnovers in 2 games. I mean, that's going to help you win a lot of ball games. But the biggest difference that I've saw from week 1 to week 2 was just the efficiency of the offense, being able to get those first downs when they needed to get those first downs, and it looks like they're on the same page, and they're not. They weren't quite on that same page in week 1, in my opinion.
Yeah. Also for Omaha, they get a bye week, and then they get Idaho at home. So it's a good chance for them to a 3-0 start looks very likely. But again, Idaho can make some of what they say in football there, Jeff, that the biggest adjustment for an organization and a team is between week 1 and week 2.
Yeah, and they say that's why we play the games. We don't just play them on paper or anything like that. It's played in between the walls. So I mean, that's another thing. So not every week is given.
Mm-hmm. Not every week is given. So let's go to the other question, and this will hit me and Jeff a little bit different, because we have the opportunity of covering the team for through the wire. Will questions be answered in willing, Matt?
I mean, I think they will. Knowing Rez the way I know and got to know him a little bit more on that trip last week, I know that he's not pleased with how the season has started. I mean, I know he expected them to come in and be competitive, and they've been competitive, but obviously they've had a few kinks in the armor. I definitely think that there's going to be some questions that need to be answered. The first question that they answered right away was they did sign a kicker for week 2, so that was a good move in my opinion on their part. But what can they do to continue to improve? Grant Russell has struggled a little bit, if we're being honest, to start the season. I think he had 3 interceptions on Saturday against Carolina, but he's a great athlete. And so can he bounce back mentally, and can the team bounce back when they're not really used to losing the way they have been losing the last couple of games?
Well, I look at Willing and I look at Coach Rez's history as a coach, and he has history of going 0-2, 0-3 in previous seasons and find the way to get back into the postseason picture and even making the playoffs. It is way too early. The American Division, I think, is going to be very competitive. And they get a win this weekend in Shreveport. All of a sudden, you're back in the mix. You got a division win. You're 1-1. You're technically only a game out of the second playoff spot. So you're still in there, and they have a couple more games up against Carolina, so they had their chance of bouncing back.
Right.
One thing I did see this weekend that I was very impressed about Willing, they answered the special teams issue, but they also, that defense kept them in that game a lot longer than it was supposed to. Like, the offense felt like it just kept getting, every time it did something good and positive, it set itself back with a turnover, penalty. That defense, I think it was like 3 straight drives where both defenses turned the offenses around, and it was just who can make that play. Carolina made the plays in the second half that Willing did not. But then you look at the previous week, Willing the kicker, I think, was the main issue because Colorado was starting 10, 12 yards.
Mhm.
Their average starting field position was on your 15. You're not going to win a lot of football games when that happens. So you got an improvement. They play Shreveport this weekend. It's going to be unique how they approach it. But 0-3, you're in danger zone. This is basically, I think Jeff might agree. I asked him this question. Is it must-win weekend for the Willing Miners going down to Shreveport?
Absolutely, it is a must-win. It's got to be a tone setter, and going into this and then a bye week the following. So it's a must-win to reset, set everything straight, get a divisional win, and keep yourself in the playoff picture.
Keeping yourself in the playoff picture is key, especially early, because we've seen in a lot of leagues, including my favorite team here in Jacksonville, we set ourselves way back last year, and we caught on fire, but we ran out of games. Usually, I was taught, our team here, my high school team of coaches always said, you want to win the games now. You don't want to be chasing wins later. If you're chasing wins, something happens. You either run out of games or you catch up and get that spot. But you're basically got to take care of business and have all your issues in your control. You don't need someone else to determine your fate. So that's what I mean about chasing for wins. And speaking about the National Arena League, in Week 3 action kicks off Friday night between the Carolina Cobras and the Columbus Lions, March 21st in Columbus Civic Center. And on Saturday, it's that pivotal game for both organizations. You saw we said must win for the Willing Miners. This could also be must win for the Shreveport Rubaroo. Saturday, March 22nd. Kickoff is in Shreveport. It's been a very active and exciting week, but there's some questions that a lot of fans want to ask. Well, basically, how can I say this? Who stood out to you the most in the previous first 2 weeks? Who wowed you the most? And who so far has been the biggest disappointment? Let's start with you, Jeff. Who's the biggest surprise? Who's the biggest disappointment?
I think the biggest surprise, and we've only seen him once, is Beaumont coming out and beating Sioux City the first week. That's a huge thing. I mean, you come out and beat a team that was in the championship game the previous year. You're a virtually unknown team with being an expansion franchise in Beaumont. So, I mean, that's one of those things that you come out and you set a statement and you win at home, and you wish you win your first National Arena League game and your first game in franchise history. So I definitely think it's them. And unfortunately, I feel like it's Wheeling is the unfortunate, is not starting the way they wanted to for sure.
Matt?
Yeah, I would have to agree. I mean, I think the biggest surprise was definitely Beaumont coming out there and pulling out that victory in the last second against Sioux City. That game could have gone either way, but the fact that Beaumont was so resilient and they showed that they have some guys who are talented and are going to, compete until the final whistle. So yeah, that was very, very much the surprise for me. And then I unfortunately have to echo the sentiment that Jeff said. Like, again, nothing against the Wheeling Miners. Great organization, ran by great people, and have an amazing coaching staff. But yeah, just really surprised by how they've started out and opened up the season, and just really hoping that they can find a way. And I'm sure Rez will find a way to be resilient and get back into things like he talked about before. But yeah, those would be my two for those questions for sure.
Well, I'm going to be a little bit unique. His biggest surprise in Beaumont, I'm taking them out. My biggest surprise so far this season, I look at it and go, you know what? No one's talking about this dude, and that's Tobias. Biggest surprise is Tobias Harris.
I said something to start the show. I mean,
you don't count.
I didn't. So let me preface that. Let me backtrack on that. I didn't say Tobias Taylor because it's not a surprise to me what he's doing. I watched him do that in Omaha. I watched him do that in Wyoming when he played in the CIF. So I mean, the what he's doing doesn't surprise me because he's a stud. He just is.
Oh. All right. Well, fine. Well, we'll take him away.
No, it's okay.
Jim says something, and no, you can't do that, Jim. I've already said it. Or it's like a competition we have on this episode. So.
No.
I mean,
like, oh, fine. You know what? Carl Robinson III, quarterback, Beaumont.
Fair.
How about that?
Fair.
Everyone's like, who's this guy? What, is he going to do anything? And what does he do? He made the plays against Sioux City.
Absolutely.
And at the times where you thought the game was going to get away from them, he made the clutch throws, the clutch runs, smart decisions, and he won the game. Mm-hmm. Just stinks that they have a bye week again. So you want to know when they come back how much momentum they have. But as much as I, praise certain players, my biggest disappointment so far this season, I have, unfortunately, we all said it, the Wheeling Miners. We all thought Wheeling was going to be top tier because a lot of our votes, who we voted in the preseason poll, we thought Wheeling was. And so far, 0-2 is not what you think is a positive start. But when you put high expectations like we did, 0-2 really dampers your, oh, yeah, that's a kind of a disappointment. But you can almost say a disappointment. No, you can't really say disappointment because we'll have other podcasts that banter about this if we made that statement. We ain't touching that because we don't talk about the preseason. Sorry, Matt. Sorry, I'm not going to.
I mean, it's kind of like what Pepe said, right? I mean, Omaha's taking it 1 week at a time. They're forgetting about the past, and every week. I mean, you listen to it. Like, I will vouch for this and say that in practice, I hear Coach Tatum say, he said this last year, he says it this year, we're going to be 1-0 this week. We're wanting to be 1-0 this week. We're wanting to be 1-0 this week. They don't care about what happened last week. They don't care about what happened a month ago.
Correct. And also, a lot of people will look at the players and go, Tobias, again, had everyone thought he was, he is a runner. People think, oh, he's going to be a guy who's going to, make the smart plays, use his ability. He's trucking people. Like
that touchdown catch that he had where he almost fell down but put his hand down and still went into the end zone, that was something else, man.
Yeah.
He hurdled a guy and then ran a guy over. And
that was crazy. That hurdle was awesome.
And one thing, if you look at talking about the actual players and the certain teams, it's nice when you look at Sioux City and Omaha and Carolina and Wheeling, and you see the different styles of offenses they run. certain teams like Omaha, I think, found their style this weekend. Teams like Willing and Idaho are still trying to find theirs. But one thing I did notice is that Carolina, I think, is going to have a pretty damn good defense. Willing has a dang good defense. And I think Omaha has an impressive defense that it could be scary good at how many yards they've held their two opponents.
Yeah.
The defense in the NAL is right now a couple steps ahead than all the offenses.
I agree with that. Yeah.
The Omaha defense, let me chime in real quick. The Omaha defense this year, so far, is very close to, or if not as good as, and potentially better than that record-breaking defense that they had in 2023.
Yeah.
I mean, we had I think we only gave up an average of 21 points a game in 2023.
Yeah.
Total in arena football. Think about that. 21 points a game. That's unheard of.
But there's also a guy we need to mention, and that was the guy who was under center in Sioux City this past weekend. Tyler, was it
Lowenstein?
Lowenstein played a hell of a game.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That Sioux City offense didn't look like they skipped a beat.
No,
not at all. And that, and I've watched Tyler play a lot. Being with Sioux City and Omaha and whatnot, he's played for both teams. I would say that was easily his best game of his career.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of what you especially in the NFL, you're like, oh, the starting quarterback, we got the backup, good. You look at the NAL, you go Sioux City. If Verlon goes down, you got Tyler. You're like, what the?
Yeah.
The offense doesn't change.
Mm-mm.
Like I watched the game live and I watched it on replay, and I'm like, they move the ball up and down the field. They look impressive. But the question is, what is Idaho going to do? How are they going to rebound? Because their next couple opponents are no slouch.
Mm-hmm.
They got Omaha coming up next, and after that they got Carolina. Like, there's a lot of questions on their sides, and we have Draco popping in twice.
Hey, that guy's also one heck of a defensive player too. Not gonna lie.
Hey, who had him as a potential defensive player of the year?
Yep, absolutely. He is more than capable of doing that for sure.
Who? Raise your hands to see who had him on there.
Jim,
my hand. You can't see my hand. Me. The other two didn't. So just saying.
Well,
I gotta click my receipts. Sorry. Stop. I'm not bashing.
We see you, Draco. We see you.
But early in the season, you saw the defenses, shine. But we got to show. Speaking of defenses, I know it's not considered. Well, it is considered a league game, but it's not considered a record towards the account for the postseason. But we got to give credit's due. What Columbus did to Peach State, 85-0. That's still pretty impressive. I don't care if they're a semi-pro team. You shot them out. That's pretty good.
Yeah, definitely.
And that defense was flying around. We gotta give credit where credit's due. Just saying, Columbus is Columbus. This weekend's games, ladies and gentlemen. Let me put the screen again. Friday night in Columbus, we have the rematch of an old school traditional rivalry in the National Arena League. That is the Carolina Cobras traveling down to the Columbus Lions. That is going to, if we had a game of the week, that is the game of the week. That is pivotal for the American Division. A win by Carolina, they get a 2-0 start both in division play and in the regular season. But if Columbus wins, they'll be 2-0 with a 1-0 division record, and they get back into the mix. Some intriguing matchups. So let's preview these games there, Jen. So let's start with the matchup in Columbus between the Columbus Lions and the Carolina Cobras. Matt, what are you looking forward to in this game? What stands out? What's your opinion about what this game could be?
Yeah, I look forward to watching the Carolina offense play against that defense in Columbus. We talked about how good Carolina's offense looks, but their defense also looks good. I'm just excited for this game in general. It's a game that I've been looking forward to for a long time because just of the nature of it, with it being two old NAL teams coming back, or at least Carolina or Columbus coming back and playing Carolina. I'm just looking forward to being able to watch those two teams and see which defense stands out the most, and then also which offense can find their rhythm and do the things that they want to do to be successful, with those two quarterbacks. And I'm just excited to see if it's going to be a low scoring affair or if we're going to get some fireworks.
The history of these two teams there, Matt, in the old NAL, you're going to get fireworks. Just FYI.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff, your thoughts?
I think it's time for Columbus to prove themselves and play, an NAL caliber team. And I think they're ready for it. I think they're ready to, show what they have. Brooks looked really good in week 1. I think he, wants to show that he is a top tier quarterback in this league. And I think Columbus has a lot to prove. And then the swing side, I think Carolina definitely wants to ride the momentum of last week and keep going and keep showing that they, are a team to mess with this season.
I also just look at Columbus's roster, and they have 8 veterans on that roster who all have experience playing this game for a really long time. So that could end up being a factor in this game as well.
Yes, and one of the guys' names is D. Brown, defensive line. I call him St. Pierre Brown for some odd reason. I don't know where I got that name from. He was all around the field against Peach State. Mm-hmm. Their defense is very explosive. Draco back there. Also ZB, the timeless wonder that is Zach Brown. He's around there making plays as well. And a name I think that a lot of NAL fans need to start paying attention to is the quarterback, Marcus Brooks. I think he is going to be a name, again, a savvy vet. He's been around the game for a long time. I think he's 7 or 8 years in the game, so he has experience. And one thing about Columbus, and we've mentioned this before plenty of times, if Columbus plays in the National Arena League, they're consistently in the postseason. Mm-hmm. That's who they are. That's their team. And how Daniels has coached them and how they are that explosive, you're going to see a lot of fireworks from them. One thing I look at this game, you see what Carolina brought to the fold last week, and you see Vincent Espinoza finally in the second half started finding his cut down routes, making the smart play, not rushing thing, and using mobility. Against Columbus, their defense is going to attack that. So guys like Tobias need to run more. It might be like a cat and mouse game or a nickel dime type of game where we might be at halftime and it's 20-20. Mm-hmm. And we might be at the end of the fourth quarter, the game's over and it's 27-20. Two type of games can happen. We could have a very high scoring first half, or we can have a very low scoring game itself. But historically between these two teams, they're actually kind of low scoring games. Historically between Columbus Lions and the Carolina Cobras. But yeah, Jeff, we forgot to talk about Jermon Fortson. Me and you as a Seminole guys, we forgot to mention about Jermon Fortson.
Apparently he eats snakes. That's what we have on good authority right here. So
I mean, you could say that.
Lizard, gator,
gator, hurricanes,
But I think this game is again, it's not like the other American Division game where we think that's a must-win. One of these teams is going to take a setback because there's going to be a winner and a loser. I think the winner of this game has the front row seat of hosting the American Division championship game. I think that's how big this game could be. It's still a lot of football to be played, especially in the American side. But if I'm Carolina, don't count out Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
No.
If I'm Columbus, don't take Carolina for granted because Coach Bonner is you saw how that game was played against Willing. It was a slugfest early, and then the defense won the day. This could very well be a very defensive game, and I think it will be. I think it comes down to, honestly, first one to 30 probably wins.
With those defenses, probably. That's probably a good indication.
Yeah, probably 30. Oh,
Yeah.
wait, that's unique. But the other game this weekend we mentioned a couple of times is the Willing Miners are traveling to the Shreveport Riveroo on Saturday, March 22nd in lovely Shreveport. We mentioned this before, that the Shreveport River and the Willing Miners both started the season winless. They're 0-1 per. Shreveport did lose to the Omaha Beef, and then Willing lost to both Colorado and the Carolina Cobras. So the big time division game to get these teams back into the fold for a potential playoff spot, or trying to make a run for the 1 seed in the division. We do know from Shreveport is that Omaha game wasn't pretty for both sides, but you saw things from that that Shreveport team that you go, okay, I see what they're trying to do. If Van Boxel is healthy, they can move the ball.
Yeah.
They have that type of team. But I look on the defensive side of the ball, even though we've mentioned about Willing, their 0-2 start, their defense wasn't the issue in both games. Defense travels no matter what. You look at this week's game. If Willing's defense travels to them again to Shreveport, this could be a chance where Willing can get that bounce back game, feel good, and enter the bye week. But the question still remains on that can the offense finally get over the hump? If they do, I think Willing can have a good say in this. I look at this game, and it's not Shreveport's. Well, it's not Willing's offense or Willing's defense. There are a couple individuals that really, I think, for me, if they step up their game just a little bit, they could pull off an upset. And it starts with a plethora of running backs in the backfield. I think for Shreveport to get back into the game, that's get Dixon the ball. Not Dixon, excuse me. My bad. Rewind that. Not Dixon. I'm thinking about another guy. Given Galloway, Samuels, and actually there's like 6 running backs on the roster. Give them the rock. Don't force passing plays to a defense that's containing offenses right now. Willing's defense is there. It's their offense that's need to respond. But for Shreveport, give Rashad Ridley the ball more, run the ball, and stay running the ball, become off balance. If you start doing that, I think there might be a chance for upsets. But there's certain guys on both sides of the field that you need to see step their game up. Your 2 teams are both winless, still trying to find a game. It's in Shreveport. You want to see how Shreveport plays. It comes down to me. Plethora of running backs. Give them a rock. Keep giving them the ball. Let them run. Get Rashad Ridley more of the touches of the receiving core. And if you're a quarterback, if the guys are not there, run. One thing I saw against Omaha, they didn't. When the guys were open, they panicked and they sacked. If you go rewatch that film, Shreveport was what? 3rd and 12, 3rd and 14, 4th and 15. They were in the whole night. You're not going to win a lot of football games like that. Jeff, your opinion about this weekend's game?
I think the offensive line for Wheeling needs to step up. I think that's a big indication. And I think, with an extra week, the rule change is a little different for Wheeling. They're still trying to get into the set of, the indoor style of rules instead of the arena rules like they ran last year. So there's a lot of different things. I mean, with the offensive linemen, you can't cut block this year. So it's a little different. So the guys have to, everything's upper body. So you have to figure that out. So there's some things. And for Shreveport, they're still trying to mesh together. Brand new franchise, trying to figure things out. So, I mean, it's going to be an interesting game to say the least. with both teams, winless. Somebody's got to win this game, and it's a divisional game, so it's gonna set somebody on the right track for the division.
Yeah. And there's also another receiver on Shreveport that I think needs to shine, but I didn't want to take Matt's shine away because I know he's going to mention him. That's why I didn't mention him.
Yeah.
Matt, what are the keys in your opinion for the Shreveport River to get a win there against Wheeling in week 3?
I mean, I think number one is, do we get to see Dylan Van Boxel? Because with him in the lineup, I think it's going to be a completely different offense, and just a completely different way of doing things. But I mean, we saw one thing that they did that they're going to continue to do, and I'd be shocked if they didn't, and that's get the ball to number 2. Denarius Antoine, he does everything. He runs with the ball. He catches the ball. I wouldn't be surprised if he throws the ball every once in a while. But I would just love to see. I just want to see what he's going to do, and see what they're going to do with him. But let's go back really quick. Let's go back here, just Jim, really quick. We had a question in the comments for you, right here from our buddy Ducon. If you were the coach of Wheeling, how would you approach games differently, or would you approach games differently?
Well, there's a lot of things I'll approach a game differently, but I'm going to just stick with the coaching aspect. I'm not going to deal with the stuff that's behind the scenes because Rez does a hell of a lot behind the scenes that people don't know about.
Yeah, for sure.
How for coaching, like during the games type of situations, like for example, what I saw this in Carolina. I'll be running a lot more jet sweeps because I feel like the defenses are crashing down on Grant Russell, and they know Grant Russell is mobile, but they know if they can contain him in the pocket and pressure him up front, that he can't get out. So I think you need to run more jet sweeps and consistently run more jet sweeps so you can open up the read option where you can fake handoff to Westbrook and then run up the middle. I feel if I was the offensive coach, and trust me, there's enough of experience on that offensive side of the ball where they don't need me to question what they do. I'm the type of person that run the ball is like Novocaine. Give it time, it works every time. And the reason why I say that is because I saw it here in Jacksonville last year when the Sharks started to run the ball more, everything started opening up. They didn't shy away. They didn't care if it was 3rd and 13. They ran the ball, and they didn't care. I think if I was a coach, I'll run the ball more because when I watched that film, Carolina was crashing down on Grant Russell.
Yeah.
And I think that jet sweeps will open even more, and even quick routes, little 2-yard out routes, bam, 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 bam. Keeps that D line from pressuring and keeps that linebacker from getting to the quarterback where it opens up more of the middle of the field. That's me.
Somebody that we didn't talk about that had a huge game and really somebody that was going to come in and just play defense, really. Fred Hargrove is playing receiver and running back for Wheeling right now and is doing an unbelievable job. Had a really good game in the running back position this past week, had a touchdown. And he has 2 touchdowns this year, 1 in each game. So, I mean, he's having a heck of a game or heck of a year here for Wheeling. So somebody to keep your eye on for sure.
You love to see it. You love to see it.
Well, you love to see it. And it's only week 2, entering week 3. And I just want to mention this. I know it's not on our topics to talk about, but over the last couple of days, if you were watching Right Now TV, you saw a couple of our games pop up. It's nice to see some extra content from the NAL. You could tell that the production, how it was rebroadcast on Right Now TV, nice touch. Good program, good content. I'm looking forward to what we can do with Right Now TV in the future, but I like what's going on. So if you have a chance, remember Right Now TV, visit rightnowtv.com to view what is going on. You can get bare knuckle fighting, sumo wrestling, motorcycle repair, then National Arena League football. There's a lot of stuff on that channel, and I thought it did very well. Good to rebroadcast it, and stay tuned for more updates because, as you know, the National Arena League has unique updates. And what people don't, I didn't think people got it. If you watch Game Day, the commissioner did make another announcement on Game Day. The National Arena League has a official sponsor for the championship game.
Yeah, hard AF seltzer.
Yes.
So, which is
What
awesome.
was it, like 8% alcohol? He said that was in
Yes,
I
8%
think you did.
alcohol.
I think we were all like, "Whoa!"
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the
8%.
reaction with 8% alcohol. Like, dude, bam.
Yeah. That's a pretty good championship drink. So those will be provided to the winning team. So that'll be interesting. That'll be cool to see. So that'll be different.
Again, there's a lot more intriguing things. As you know, the National Arena League this year, if you're watching us, you can go, man, how are these Player of the Year awards done? Is it done by us three right here? The answer to your question is no. We do not have nothing to do with the player voting. You, the fans, do. You go on nationalarenaleague.com, click on Player of the Week status, and go vote for your favorite player. And you vote for the Player of the Week.
Have they ever
Not
done
us.
that before?
Yeah.
Have they ever done that before in the National Arena League? I just don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So you can go to nationalarenaleague.com and you'll see it. Vote here for Players of the Week right after the week's games, and click it, boom, and you get a chance to be a part of the National Arena League. As we have been coming, as you've noticed, ladies and gentlemen, because of Brandon Eichert and Steven Stola and many people behind the scenes, we're becoming a more transparent league over the last couple of weeks. Hopefully our main goal is to be not really transparent, but give you the information where if you hear it from myself or Jeff or Matt or any representative of the National Arena League, it's not banter, it's actual fact. That's one thing that the National Arena League is striving for, is to be a transparent league and giving you guys the most accurate information for the league itself. Matt, I love our chats behind the scenes, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to mention that. Do you want me to call them? Because I can.
No, it's okay.
Okay. I don't want to do that on live air, but you really deterred me, man.
I think, here's what I think. Like, we talked a lot about, like, what have we seen so far? What are we looking forward to this next week? But, like, just look at, like, I mean, the season is just going to keep getting better and better and better and better, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've got Sioux City and Omaha haven't even played yet. And then we've got Carolina's got Columbus this week. They've got another matchup with Columbus next in a couple weeks. Then they've got two more matchups with or another matchup with Wheeling or whatever, right? Like, there's going to be two more matchups with Wheeling. Yeah, my bad. So there's going to be a lot of really fun games. Colorado's got some really, really fun games coming up too. Like, stay tuned because this is going to be a wild season in the NAL.
For sure.
Well, it's so wild that I remember someone on this show that said he wishes that every team finished at 5-5. Matt, the weird freaking, tiebreakers. But I do want to have to say this, ladies and gentlemen, our time in Wheeling was epic. I enjoyed it. It was cool hanging out with both sides. Got to talk to both coaches and a lot of players. And next week, because it's the bye week, we will be getting another guest. And me and Matt literally talked to him in the back room at the end of the game last week. We didn't reach out to him this week because they're traveling back to Colorado. But our goal is next week to get Aaron Aiken here on the show. We've promised him a couple of times he'd be on the show. So next week's show, we'll try and get him on, talk about Colorado in the first 2 weeks of the season. But Jeff knows, Matt knows, ever since I've left Wheeling, there's been one restaurant that's been on my mind, and I want to go back to it. That has to be the best Chinese restaurant I've ever went to, and it's just like a side Chinese restaurant buffet. Just saying. Like, I may just go back up there to just visit that Chinese restaurant.
Need to see if they deliver to Jacksonville.
That's a hell of a DoorDash bill, man.
Hey,
I'm just saying.
We tried to get them to take us there twice, but they wouldn't do it.
No, there's some good establishments up there, and I really enjoyed
our
time.
It was awesome having all three of us together. We actually got the chance to do 2 shows while you guys were up here, which was awesome. So yeah, definitely loved that, and it was a great time.
6.5 hours of content.
And talk about one of the highlights, right? Getting to talk to Merrill Hodge.
Yeah.
About the original origins of the indoor game. and just how it got started on ESPN and all that. Like that was the cherry on top of the cake right there.
Oh, and Jeff got pointers from.
Yeah, I got
He
broadcast
did. He
advice.
did. That was great.
From Hodge, which is awesome. I mean,
did you use them?
I did. I mean, that's the one of the things. I mean, it's funny because I asked the question. I was like, he's not gonna give me and he gave me an actual answer. Like not a hey, just figure it out. No, he actually gave me an actual answer, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So it was a great time in Wheeling. I really enjoyed it. The weather was nice. A Florida boy going up there and seeing snow was kind of interesting, but it turned out to be. It got warmer as the week progressed.
Definitely.
I blame it on the continental breakfast. That's why it got warm. But it was a great event. It was a great journey. Flights there and back were enjoyable. Still got a little grudge on you, Duffy. How in the heck did we fly together to Atlanta and then you leave me in Atlanta for 2 hours? Like, come on, dude. I enjoyed. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, it's kind of fun story. If you're in Atlanta International Airport, I did find this out. Chick-fil-A is open in Atlanta International Airport on a Sunday because it's not operated by the actual Chick-fil-A. Just FYI, if you go in Atlanta. And if you're in Atlanta, you're either there for an hour or you're there for 6 hours. Just determined. Just saying. But we made it there, made it back. We look forward to our next journeys. See, 70? What? Did I see 70 today and blizzard tomorrow? Where the heck is that at?
That's Connor. He's here in Omaha with me. Yeah, they've canceled school tomorrow. It was 75 degrees here today.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Man, Mother Nature.
Also, Bob really wants to know.
He didn't sign any. No.
I know. I may know someone who has a terrible towel signed. Just saying.
Well, I didn't get anything signed.
Yeah.
You had one job.
One job.
Just kidding.
Hey, we had an interview with Mayor Hodge.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a great event.
And we have a picture to prove it.
Well, a 15-minute interview.
Yeah.
I know.
And I'm fired. We were just at. Never mind, Bob. Nope. We just came from an event together, so he's just stirring the pot. That's I'm a co-host from another show of mine. But gents, remember, this weekend 2 games. Friday night, Cobras, Lions. Saturday night, Miners, Shreveport, Rougarou. And we got a lot of indoor football throughout the country happening this weekend as well. But remember, all of our content, all of our shows, and all the games of the National Arena League are broadcast on YouTube and then rebroadcast on Right Now TV. So, live on YouTube, Right Now, later in the week. Apparently, I think there was a game on Right Now TV. Well, no, it's a little too late, but usually is. But anyways, final words, Jeff.
I'm excited for week 3 action. 2 good games this weekend, Friday and Saturday, which is great. It's always good to have one game on one day and one game on the other, so you can enjoy both of them and don't have to flip back and forth between the two. So that's great. Looks like we're taking applications for Inside the Sharks, but no, I think it's great to see the caliber of play that we've seen in the past 2 weeks, and I hope to continue to see the same here in week 3.
Matt, any final words?
No, I'm just, again, I echo the sentiment of Jeff. It's really awesome to have the games on separate days. We can watch them both. We can analyze them. And I just continue to look forward to where this league is going and the heights that it's going to reach in 2025. And I just really hope that the fans stay tuned and watch.
Also, before we leave, we're doing the last call. Last call on ticket giveaway. Remember, hashtag ticket giveaway on this stream right now. And enter win 2 tickets to your NAL game of choosing. The drawing will happen live on Inside the Walls podcast next Tuesday. We will give away tickets to your favorite NAL game of your choosing, regular season only. And it's different, just hashtag ticket giveaway on this stream or on the podcast platforms. And speaking of podcast platforms, if you missed this entire show, remember we're available on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast Addict, and also click the QR code and it sends you right to In Walls Network, where all of our podcasts are available for your enjoyment. Well, I think that's a good show. We're good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we
Sounds
sure
like you're
about that? Did we miss anything?
No, sounds like we're gonna have open tryouts for Inside the Sharks.
Yes, we'll have to take a rain check on that.
We'll have to have his people talk to some other guy's people.
Yes. Well. Yes. I don't think there might be some issues with the HR department there, so I think there might have to be some paperwork that has to be drawn out before any finalizations can happen. So we'll have to check the paperwork first. Okay. With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for episode 179. Our next episode's next Tuesday, same time, same place. 180 episodes in for Inside the Walls podcast. We'll be recapping week 3 and then previewing week 4 of the National Arena League season. We got a full slate of games next week, 2 games this week, and so enjoy it. Remember, follow all up-to-date information of the National Arena League at nationalarenaleague.com and also on their social media platforms at NAL Football on Twitter, Instagram, and on Facebook. That is Jeff. I am Jim. That is Matt. Episode 179. Be well, be safe. And to the people in Omaha, you got a blizzard coming? Stay warm, because down here in State Florida, we're in the 80s already. It's beautiful down here. We'll see you guys next week.